I'm in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania to see the Rolls Royce and Bentley Museum.
Mark VI, same chassis. And that was the thing unique about Rolls Royce and Bentley, is that the factory built the chassis with all the running gear, and then you sent it to a coach builder, and they built the body. So there's a lot of different styles of bodies that you'll see in here in our collection that came from the coach builders. And then that was done until, from the very beginning until in the teens and 20s, up until the early 50s, a little bit into the 60s, like Park, Ward, Mulliner, were some of the coach builders that actually MPW got folded into Rolls Royce in the 60s as their own chassis or body builder. The bodies became standardized in the 50s and 60s and they were manufactured by Press Steel Company. But this one is a Mark VI, and it's got a custom body on it.
Yeah, what can you tell me?
Made it into a roadster. They literally shortened the chassis, so it became a two-seater. You can walk around to the interior. It's kind of interesting.
So this is a 1947.
Yes, so it's a 47 chassis.
And Rolls and Royce started off as two different companies then?
Sir Rolls was actually a dealer, an automobile dealer in the early turn of the 20th century. So he had some vehicles that were from France, some that were English. And Henry Royce was self-educated and trained engineer. He did an apprenticeship with the railroads, with the railways as an engineer, electronics, and got into mechanical engineering and then electrical engineering. And Mr. Royce, developed his own car because he was very dissatisfied with what was out there. So he took a French car, forget the brand, but he took a French car and basically rebuilt it to his specifications, which were very demanding. He always thought that everything could be improved on. And that was his goal, to have the best quality, the best produced car, the best engineered car that they could make. And that was his vision. So he built about 3 cars and was introduced to Sir Rolls. And they then developed their partnership as a dealership, and then they started building more cars, and that's how it became Rolls Royce. A couple of years ago, it was Best in Show up at the Carlisle Auto Show. And I was, I hate to brag, I was the one that prepped the car, and I was really, really proud that it won an award in its class. But it's
so by prep, you get it all detailed.
Detailed the whole car and everything. But it's really a nice car. It's a turbo. So it goes like crazy. You step on it, it will get up and go. And realize these cars are 5,000 pounds plus. And for them to have performance, they've got a very, very strong engine. In fact, all the engines basically in the modern cars, 8 cylinders, are basically 6 3/4 liters. Yeah, liters, just like Henry Potter, 6 3/4. This one's nice. The interior's a nice cream white with green pinstripe. And the back seats.
And this is from 95?
And the back seats are like, they're so comfortable. It's like being in a recliner. Just really comfortable car. So we periodically also have to take the cars out, and we'll clean the seats, and we'll treat them with a leather treatment to keep them nice and supple, keep all the oils, because the oils in leather will evaporate, and then it gets hard and crumbly. Now this one is your typical Rolls Royce when we think of the silver clouds, and I think this is a Cloud 1. If I'm looking at the headlights, the Cloud 1s were a 6-cylinder, and they had single headlights.
Yes.
If I make a liar, I didn't make a liar out of it.
1959.
1959, yeah.
Cloud 1.
I was 4 years old when this was built. But this is, when people think of Rolls Royce, this is the classical shape that they think of with that grille, and that grille is unusual. That you look at it and it looks the spines look vertical. Well, they're actually slightly bowed. If you look, there's just a slight bow in the veins, because if they made them perfectly straight, it would look like they were concave. It would look like they were bowing in. So they found out, and this is all handmade, and the reason they're handmade is because a machine cannot do this angle. It can't do the sharp edges. So those have to be all handmade. And last time,
Like blades on a jet.
yeah. And they actually had a purpose. In the older cars, there was a mechanism, and it was literally mercury, that would expand due to heat, and it would move a system of, I guess you call them veins, and they'll open the vents, open the fins up, or close them. If it was cold, they would close. As it warmed up, the mercury would expand, and it would open the veins on the radiator shell.
That was available as a feature, you're saying?
That was, yeah, I think that was on most of the cars, in which mainly from the 20s and 30s. Nowadays they don't open or close, from my understanding. But this is the Grecian. They call it the Grecian temple, and it's not the most aerodynamic of shapes.
It looks good.
But it is classical to Rolls Royce and unique to Rolls Royce. They say that a lot of the shapes of their cars have a very boat-like appearance, and that it's high in the front and low in the back. So this is the Cloud 1, and next to it is a Bentley R-Type, and it's the same chassis. All the mechanics are the same. And mostly the bodies, they did some slight alterations. If you notice the doors, front doors, this is front opening, whereas the Cloud is opening as we call normal. So this is the Suicide Door Museum, and I found out that they have, every third Saturday, they have volunteers that come in and work and service the cars. So I started coming in every third Saturday, and I mean, I can clean, polish, wax, vacuum, detail. I'm not so mechanically inclined, but there's a group of people that we just get together, get along real well with each other, and if we can do the work, somebody pitches in and we do the work that's needed on the cars. It's limousine, and it's got the division glass. Here in the back, it's down right now. But if the division glass is up and your chauffeur's up here separated, the nice thing about this car is that you've got
The suicide door again.
Suicide door. You've got your writing tables, but also in the middle console, some of these consoles are, I think that one's a speaker, but some of the consoles have a liquor cabinet in it. Have a liquor cabinet installed in here. With the partition up, you could drink and you wouldn't get pulled over. But if the partition was down, the driver got the ticket for drinking and driving for deed. Some of this was still influenced by Art Deco, because look at the sweep of the curve of the doors here and the way it moves down in an arc from here down into the footwell or the footstep. It's a very, very unique.
It is. That must be a lot of work. That's got to be done by hand, I'm assuming.
Yeah, these were still bodied by coach builders at the time. Silver Cloud 2, but I'm trying to think what they called it. And they had things like the picnic, as you see the picnic table there actually was a specific name.
Oh, this came in the car.
Yeah,
this is like a little table that's actually built into the car.
Right. So yeah, that's the thing that is unique about Rolls Royce. You can have anything built into the car that you want, or that could be fitted into it. And this is a Countryman. That's what it is.
Countryman.
This is a Countryman, and they built the table. I've seen also some versions where they actually have with the fenders here, with the fender post.
Okay.
there'll be a hole in the fender post that a little cap will flip up, and you put a seat, a little swivel or little round seat that you can sit on.
Oh, a stool.
Yeah, the engine is a V8 engine. So again, single headlights. Let's see if I can find it easier on the other side. Open up one of the engine pages for you. So the other one's probably open too then. So dual carburetors, these are SU carburetors, 1 and 2, and are connected by that big air cleaners, what you saw on the other side, that big massive box. This one has air conditioning in it, air compressor. A lot larger than what we usually see today on most air compressors.
Yeah.
And the braking systems in these things were complex because
The car's so heavy, it has to be a
Well,
good braking system.
and also it's a vacuum system, which the vacuum was generated off of the engine with accumulators down at the bottom, which were driven off the crankcase. So they created the pressure of the vacuum that drove everything on these cars. And then I think this one's a dual hydraulic system. But the thing is, we learn with these cars, because of that vacuum, if you're running at a low speed, you can step on the brake, but don't take your foot off the brake if you think you're going to need to brake more, because you'll lose vacuum. And you got to get above 15 mile an hour or so to build the vacuum back up. And I've had a couple of close calls, but it was okay.
Now this one you must have kept just for the paint job.
Yes. This one was from that, there was a sect out in, I believe, Oregon, the Bhagwan. He had his followers.
I think I heard about this. There's a documentary on this, huh?
Yes, there is a documentary about it. He had about 150 cars that his followers would just buy these cars, have them repainted or whatever, and present them to him. This is one of the more milder ones, but it is metal flake. They had some that were pretty outrageous if you watch the documentary.
A local collector bought it and donated it, or?
I forget how we got this one.
Oh, here, followers of Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh.
Yeah, and they were in Oregon, so they committed bioterrorist attacks, and the FBI finally investigated and liquidated. The assets were liquidated. If you go on and watch the documentary of it, it has some very unusual painted cars. But his followers would get them from whatever source. They would buy them from private individuals or...
I'm so curious how this ended up here.
Well, they dispersed the FBI after they prosecuted the group.
But the FBI didn't give it to you
No,
guys.
but somebody bought the car.
Okay.
Okay, they were all sold at auctions.
Yeah.
And someone bought the car and then gave it to the foundation.
Wow.
Now, this next car is a Phantom 5, and this is not a standard car. This is the type of Rolls Royce that would be used for heads of state, ambassadors, kings, and queens. So it's a very massive car.
Very stately. Look at that huge central window.
And this is one of the James Young coach builders. This is one of their styles.
James Young.
Is the coach builder. Did the locally to us.
What does a survivor mean?
Well, it means it's the original paint, original interiors. And if you'll notice, like
Go ahead.
here at the doorway, see how this is faded out from washing and waxing
Yeah.
and buffing. So, that's how we know, it's the original. The interiors too, but this is, a limousine again with the division glass.
The beautiful woodwork there.
Always. And
What controls do we have here? Oh, the radio.
gliders, radios, right?
Okay. Wow, it's so spacious.
Yeah. You can get this kind of legroom in any car anymore. So then, you know, that's a footrest. And that seat, actually, there's a little handle right by your leg.
Okay.
And
Yes.
that will turn that, and the seat will adjust forward and back.
Oh, look at that. A
So
great
it's-
mechanical solution.
Right, yeah, instead of electronic, it's mechanical. I forget, is this a little, yeah, another little bar, so. Which was a very popular item and still is on the.
It's amazing. I mean, you can fully stretch out here.
And then you've also got other seats too that drop down for extra passengers as well.
Oh, nice.
Forever, and we were glad to see them go. I mean, this whole area was filled with just miscellaneous parts. Yeah. Well, this is a Mark VI, like the first car, the Roadster I showed you.
Yeah.
This is the chassis that it was built off of. Now remember, it was shortened, so this car is a lot longer.
Oh, so the modified one. This is
Modified one, yes, came from
the same chassis.
Same chassis, yeah. And this is a fun car. This is also a manual, 4-speed, 6-cylinder. And the shifter is over by the door, which makes getting in and out of these cars really difficult.
Yeah, you
but
guess
because
so.
it was the driver, they didn't care. It was the rear passenger that makes a difference. But this is it's a nice car to have. Now this one is we've got this one up for sale. It just came back from Penn State.
What year is this from?
About the 70s era. I think it's an early 70s.
The fenders make it look almost American.
Silver shadow, yeah. Well, this is when they first modernized the Rolls Royce. This is their offering when they decided to upgrade. They had a lot of problems with emissions coming from the United States, so these cars got added on to.
What's happening here?
And yeah, that's another silver shadow. That's the underbody, and we kind of use that for educational purposes.
Nice.
So if you can see, as I was talking about the braking system. So here you have the rotor, or the calipers for the rotors for the rear brakes, emergency brake. But if you go and look up in here, and then you see all these 1, 2, 3, 4 different.
Vacuum assist.
Thank you. Yeah, vacuum assist. This is all vacuum assist and slave vacuums for the brakes. Slave cylinders for the master cylinders up there in the front. So it's a very, very complex system. Basically a dual system. But again, you know, independent suspension. So your boots and all U-joints. 27-gallon tank. This one is a Landau, so it's got the open space for the driver to can either cover or take it completely off. And the back too, it doesn't have the division glass, so everything's pretty exposed. Right now we're replacing the clutch. And it's nice to have all this out of here, but if somebody's mechanically interested, you can see how complicated that shifting mechanism is over here on the right-hand side, how complex from the shifter here, the gated shifter, and everything going across, how complex that is, and to be able to take all of that apart and get to the clutch has just been a little maddening.
And are you working on that?
I'm not working, I know. I know my level of frustration, and I know when to say, let me go find something else to work on. I'll show you my project later. Right now, here's one of the older cars we have in the collection, and this is American made.
1929.
1929 Rolls Royce Springfield Phantom 1.
Look at those headlights, they're gigantic.
Yeah, aren't they great? This was the Springfield, this is the factory that they built in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Look how big that is. So in Springfield, Massachusetts, okay.
They were so successful in selling the Rolls Royce in America that they decided to open an American plant. So they fitted out a building in a factory that they found in Springfield and started producing the Phantom 1 there. All the way into the 1933. Because of the Depression, they finally closed the factory. But they were in operation, I think, for about 7 years here in America. And they were basically identical to the English Phantom 1, except, of course, the steering was on the left side for American taste. And
So you got options slow or fast, weak or strong.
the throttle,
Yeah. Late or early.
that would be advancing the distributor. So it would advance the spark for...
And then different options for the lights.
This is another one I've written in this one as well, and just like the one that you were in. And you can go ahead and open that if you want to. Go ahead and take a look. It's a very cavernous compartment for the owners. This one needs a little bit of upholstery work. We had.
Oh, it looks good up front.
Looks. Well, that's the thing. Did you notice? With this car and the black and tan up there, the last one before we came in here,
Yeah.
the back is cloth.
Oh,
The
okay.
front is always leather. They thought leather was a lesser material, so
Yeah.
they didn't use leather in the back of the cars.
But you could clean it, whereas this was for comfort
Well-
in the back.
No, actually, the cloth is wool, Wilton cloth. It was more expensive, and it wasn't a factor of it being easier to clean or anything. It was a factor of that's a more expensive material, so they used cloth until the modern era, and they started using leather for the whole cars. So it's just kind of how perceptions changed.
And so Brewster and Company.
Brewster was an American coach builder, just like Cadillac body by Fisher. Fisher was another coach builder in America that would body the chassis that came from Springfield. So this is what you would get from Springfield, the chassis. And this is a 34 Phantom 2. So the next model up from this one. But you would send this chassis off to the coach builder, and they would design the body that you wanted.
So this is the real product. This is all that was being sold by Bentley or Rolls Royce.
Exactly.
And so you could probably say, send it to my favorite coach builder.
Right.
And then they customize it.
Park Ward, James Young, or in America, Barker or Fisher. And there were others as well. Those are just some of the main coach builders that were used.
And then here's something modern over here, huh?
Yes, that is the aluminum frame. And I'm going to claim ignorance because I haven't read it.
A 2003 Phantom.
Yeah, this is a demo from Rolls Royce, the space frame. They built this out for demonstration purposes, so taking it to shows.
It's nice that it ended up here.
Yeah, well, we do say that, but we're like,
Where do we
take
put it?
back. Yeah. This 33 has got some wiring issues, and I'm going to try and talk to another member of the Friends. And
Look at that, how it has these original glass
Yes,
pieces to
yeah.
keep the rain out.
These also have the little trafficators that when you flip on the turn signal, this flips up
Oh, wow.
to blink, to light up. And I'll show you another one in the main floor later, how they work and what they look like internally.
Pretty advanced for a 33.
But the thing is with Rolls Royce, they never were cutting edge on technology. They really stuck with proven, tried and true. It took them a long time to, as we would say, kind of move into the modern era. And
So these are silver clouds, or
the Silver Clouds, this was getting ready to go. This one is a Silver Wraith 3, but it is based on the Silver Shadow chassis. There's just some different features, like the headlights are a little different, a little more trim, different trim. The roof is that Everflex vinyl roof.
I'm surprised to see those in such good condition. I imagine that would wear out quickly.
That makes two of they do. I can show you on another one where it's actually got a little bit of repair work we need to do with that.
I wonder what the thought process was. Why would you want a leather or faux leather rooftop?
It's vinyl, yeah. Because it was just fashion at the time, yeah. And not all the cars had them, though. Only on certain models that they would do. As you see here, this Bentley did not have the Everflex roof on it.
It almost goes back to like horse-drawn carriages with the soft tops.
Yeah, and that's where it all started for these guys.
I went to a great museum. Where was that? In Portugal, on coaches, the horse-drawn ones. Mm-hmm. But they had 150 or 200 or so incredible royal coaches.
Oh,
and
amazing. But see, the first cars were based on carriages.
Yeah.
So that's where we kind of carried over a lot of things that came from them. Now, if you'll know,
oh wow,
vent window. And we were riding in this car, and like, stuffy, I want a little air. Push a switch and motor hums and out comes the window. So it doesn't.
And what
fold
year is
down.
this?
I believe it's 76.
You say it folds down as well?
No, it doesn't fold down. It doesn't,
just opens and closes.
Roll down. It doesn't roll down. It just folds out. But again, the trim is this wood trim like they all had, and the button for the seat, and which is a massive seat right here on top. And just back you go. Comfortable car. It's one of my favorites.
It looks like a nice big seats and lots of legroom.
Huge. Well, and considering they made it a 2-door, not a 4-door, it's still the same length.
So you call this a Corniche?
Corniche. Mm-hmm.
And so this is one of the only 2-door Rolls Royce.
One of the few until the Italians got a hold of it. Pininfarina.
Okay.
I believe it was Pininfarina got a hold of this one and did a design back in late 80s for Rolls Royce. And they tried to do their idea of modernizing it. Well, this is called a Camargue, but it's the same idea. It's a 2-door. Yep. Pininfarina. And this car actually hasn't been with us very long. It's a fairly recent acquisition. But you see the design here, they took the back and put more of a
slope
to it, yeah. And I was talking about the Everflex roof a minute ago.
Yes.
And you'll see that, if they're not properly taken care of, they'll dry and pull away a little bit. So this one's got a little bit of repair that's got to be done to it.
Well, if this is original, that's pretty good.
What happens?
From the 80s, I wouldn't expect.
Usually they'll split here at a seam or somewhere on the top.
Yeah.
And rain will get in there and rust it, and you won't know until you've got a big problem.
I'm impressed if this is held up so well from the 80s. It was definitely in a garage.
Well, they're so garage kept in these cars that's the only way some of them survive. Now, another thing, it's kind of my infatuation, is the door handles on these cars. Now they make them oversized so that if you pull up at a hotel or somewhere or a resort, that the doorman can quickly and easily get his hand in here to open the door for the passengers in the car. But I noticed that the Camargue, its door handle is just a little bit different. So it's one of the modern things they did, and I don't think many people like this style because you literally have to pull a hand in there. It's not one you can grab.
Though
through.
it feels nicely made, it's solid, but it's a bit unnatural.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's a good word for it.
Great.
Yeah. This is one I've not been in this one yet. I keep saying, "Come on, guys, let's take it when we go get lunch."
Well, this has been a great tour. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is really interesting, and I just
was blown away when I learned this was in Mechanicsburg. I couldn't believe that it's here.
And
So this is what you were telling me, how these can turn.
yes, thanks.
Look at that. So they can turn entirely and close.
Which that one's got to be reset somehow. They've got
And you say there's a mercury switch.
there's a little, yeah. From my understanding, there's a little, like a cup enclosed, encased with, it's got mercury encased in that cup, and it heats up and somehow moves the pressure of it, moves these veins that will open that up for fresh air for the radiator for cooling.
This is a big restoration. It's going to be a lot of work.
It's been a couple of years.